Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Mindset Thinking Outside the Box. We're your hosts, Jillian Willie,
And Eileen Edwards.
and today we are talking about goals. This is one of my personal favorite topics. I used to have a totally different perception of what goals are. And since I've been learning about mindset and how powerful our mind is, I have learned about what real goals are, what we should be setting for goals, and it has totally changed my world. So, super excited to share this with you. And I know Eileen is as well. So, let's dive in. So, first, I feel like it's good to kind of touch on the importance of why should we even have goals in the first place. So, as humans, if we don't have a goal, we don't have a direction. So I know there have been times in my life, and just a few months ago was one of them, where my goal was just to do my job, retire one day, have my kids. I didn't really have a clear direction. I was just kind of doing life. And I felt very stuck. I felt like my life was getting mechanical and I was bored and I didn't really know what my purpose or my place was. And then when I learned about what goals are, what they should be, how to set real goals, my world completely opened up. And now I have direction and purpose. And it's just totally changed my life and the direction of my life. And I see now that we can do and accomplish so much if we have a direction and like you can move your body towards your goal and then your days have meaning. Not to say that it's not good to have those days where you just chill and relax. Those are necessary, of course.
Yes.
But to on the daily, on a typical day, to be moving your body toward your big goal, it gives you direction and it enhances your life.
And I think that we as teachers and even parents have our students and our kids be goal oriented, but that's not necessarily what you're talking about here.
Yes. Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up because there's the goals of what most people think are goals, and then there are goals that are real goals. So I'm gonna kind of talk about those real quick so that we can understand that a little bit better. So there are three different types of goals. There are A-type goals, and these are the types of goals that we typically will set. So an A-type goal is a goal that you know exactly how to achieve it and you know that it is 100% possible. So, for example, when I graduated college, I went to school to be a teacher and I set a goal that I wanted to get a teaching job. And I knew exactly how to do that. I knew that I needed to apply to jobs. I needed to look, I needed to apply, I needed to go to interviews. And I knew that I could. Absolutely. That was something that was within my realm. I knew I would get a teaching job. So that was an A-type goal. A B-type goal, which is the another type of goal, typically if people aren't setting A-type goals, they're setting B-type goals. That's like the default. So a B-type goal is a goal that you may not necessarily know 100% you can achieve it, but you think you can. It might be a little bit more of a stretch, um, but there's really no growth attached to it. So, for example, getting a car. So maybe like a new car. It's a little more expensive. You're not 100% you can do it, but you still know how to do it. You have to save money or the money has to come from somewhere, but you're pretty sure you can do it. So those are the two types of common goals. And I think those were the kind of goals that Eileen was just referring
Yeah.
to, which we'll talk about in a sec. So the last type of goal, the type of goal that you want to be setting, is a C type goal. These are amazing life changers. So C type goal is a goal that you don't know how on earth you're going to achieve it. It feels impossible, but it sets your soul on fire and you have passion and you're excited about it and nothing is going to stand in your way. That is a C type goal. It's amazing. So I have some examples of C type goals that I can share with you all just to kind of give an example. Eileen, did you want to say anything before we kind of dive into that? Or?
I was just thinking that just listening to you say it and explain a C type goal, I think people can tell the difference between them. The feeling that's in it is definitely very different.
Yeah, yeah, feeling like it is it I can't even express how powerful like the delineation between A and B and C. You're absolutely right. Like it sets your soul on fire. I love it. So so I gave an example of A and B type goals. And I mean I set them a lot, like I said, a lot of people do. And I know like when I got my A type goal achieved, there really wasn't a whole lot of growth involved in getting my job. I mean, I went to school and did all of that, but I mean, applying to a job, there wasn't much in it, and then going to my interviews, it was what it is. I don't feel like I grew as a teacher by going to my interviews and by getting my job. So there was no growth there. And yeah, I was excited for a little while. Of course you are, but kind of fizzled out. And then B type goal, I used the car example. So that was one of my goals at one point. And I did get a new car and it was really exciting. And I mean, I love my car, but there was zero growth. All I had to do was pay money. Um, and a goal, the purpose of a goal is not to achieve the goal. The purpose of the goal is to grow. So, what you do and what you learn from the time that you set the goal all the way until you achieve it, that is the purpose of the goal. And then when you get the goal, you achieve it, that is simply a bonus. But so much growth happens on the way. So, some examples. So, I have a couple C type goals, but one of them is I want to change the world of education. That's one of the reasons that I wanted to start this podcast, to start getting this information out there into the hands and heads of parents, teachers, and kids ultimately. So I want to change the world of education. I set that goal and it lights my soul on fire. And when I started, I had zero clue how on earth this was even possible. But I kept I kept saying it. I kept thinking about it, which I still do. I visualize what I want it to look like. And I believe with my entire heart that it's going to happen. And so along the way, ideas have come to me. People who have come to me who share a vision or who share this desire, which Eileen and Lisa, that's why we're all kind of, we've come together to do this. Um,
Exactly.
the tools come to you, the ideas, the intuitive hits, it will come to you along the way. And this is all part of the manifestation process, which we'll kind of get into in another episode and probably touch on a little bit more tonight. But you said it, you don't know how it's going to happen. It scares the heck out of you, but you do it. So C type goals are so exciting, and these are the life changers.
I definitely connected with you while you were talking about, our purpose and vision for being here, and that I guess I never thought about it as that type of a goal because I wasn't thinking about it as something that I um, needed to set a goal for because it wasn't necessarily achievable. It wasn't something that I felt like could happen. It was something I wanted or that I felt like students and children needed and that I was interested in it, but that, wow, I set a goal for something that I can't accomplish. Um, and so that's why I do have that same purpose and that vision. And now, as a goal, um, after, learning about these types of goals and learning about manifestation, but before it was just, something that I really wish could happen. Not in my lifetime, but one day, that kind of a thing. And so putting it in terms of, setting a goal, it's extremely important and it's exciting. And actually having things occur that get us closer to that happening, it feels really good. It's different than how my mind would have thought about it before.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, we get stuck, and this is part of the programming in our paradigms, that we get stuck in what society thinks we can achieve, or what society thinks we should achieve. And
Yep.
then we start to believe that, but it's just a story that somebody else told us.
Yep.
We can do anything we want. Everything is within our realm if we want it and believe in it.
I totally agree. And I talk to my kids about that all the time. My kids at home and my kids in the classroom. But yes, I totally, totally agree.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so powerful when you realize that you can set goals beyond what you think or thought were achievable. And again, that's what causes that growth, is when you reach for the things that shouldn't be possible. And then you start like, wow, this can really happen, as things start appearing in your life or happening. And it happens fast too. If you believe in it and you keep focused and don't let things get in your way, your your goals will start coming to fruition faster. And you said something before, Eileen, that like that I connected with. Like, it is so fun to watch. Like, when you don't know how a goal is gonna come to fruition, it's so fun to see along the way how it happens.
Yes, and I know we were talking earlier, you were saying something about, the journey is where like all that growth comes in, and I just resonated with that so much because it's not necessarily the end result, like what happens in that end, that product or whatever it is. It's that like process along the way and the growth that happens and the learning that happens in that process. And I also wanted to comment about, you talked about like the speed that things can happen, like things that you don't even realize need to happen in order to achieve that goal. And it's like, oh, well, if this just happened, that could happen, but you didn't know that that other thing needed to happen, but the universe just kind of like aligns it just so. And an example that I was telling you about before was that I have like I wouldn't say a disability, but I have condition or whatever that prevents me from doing being able to do something. And so when somebody asks me, oh, I could just say, I have no ability to visualize. So I have no mind's eye, like literally always see black. And so when someone asks me to do something that's visualization, like it's like my brain can't do that. How could I even do this task for somebody if my brain is not capable of that? And just like having that thought myself and getting the intention of wanting to do this task, not sure how, but just setting the goal of doing it and having the excitement of being able to do this event. And the stars have all aligned and I've been able to do, I can't see it myself, but I was able to write it, which is all I needed. All I needed. I didn't need to be able to see it at all. But being stuck in that, in that space of this isn't even possible when in fact it is. It's just that, um, like I said, the universe just kind of aligns things. And then it's like this happened. And then I had a conversation with this person. Is like, wait, let me try and do it this. Oh my gosh, it worked. And so for me, that's just a recent example that kind of came to me. It was like, oh, wow, everything will just kind of align. And
Mhm.
something that I totally thought could never, ever happen, ever. And it will be. So I'm excited.
That is such a beautiful example. Um, I think it illustrates how this works really well because, something that it's like it's a physical, I can't do this. And then to be able to, you put out there, I would like to do this. And then the people or tools that you needed to hear, the things you needed to hear to show you that, hey, you can do it. And then to be able to overcome and like achieve that goal. I think that's just such a good example.
And it feels so good. I was like, I can't even believe I just did this. Like something that I totally didn't think I could ever be capable of doing. Um, and so I do think it's possible. It's just, I think if we spend too much time planning and too much time with like, I know I was definitely someone who did this all the time, like creating the lists, like a to-do list of how I'm going to get from this spot to this spot, and I'm going to try this and I'm going to try that. And it's all that like, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. It's like almost like stifling what can happen because you're trying to grab a hold of all of these things, which that might not be how the universe has it planned. And that's definitely not how I imagined that was going to go. But then those conversations happened. I happened to be with the right person at the right time. And, speaking to someone who has experiences different than me. And it just was like, oh, this worked. And I wouldn't have imagined being able to do that, um, had, it not worked out that way. And so I think that happens a lot. My example might not be the greatest example of that, but I think that I've seen it many times with myself and with others that you don't know how something is going to happen and you let it go, you know, and you just have that feeling, that excitement, that belief. I tell my two personal kids all the time, like believing in something, your beliefs, your thoughts, that's what kind of controls things. And so I think that a lot of times if we just if we're just open and accepting of what the universe is going to serve, then things might happen just not in the way that you planned.
Mhm. Yeah, you brought up, I think, a lot of really good points. And something that I'd like to expand on that you said about planning. I think a lot of people, and I was one of these people, and I'm working very hard to get out of that. A lot of people say I need to have everything ready, all my ducks in a row. I need to know exactly how it's going to happen. I need to have all the money I need or all the resources I need. And what happens is when you start trying to look outside yourself for the resources you need, you're not going to find them because everything you need to achieve your goals comes from within. And um, everything else that you need along the way, the universe is going to give you when the time is right for you to get that piece of the puzzle toward achieving your goal. And there's a really great book called U Squared by Price Pritchett, which is all about quantum leaping, um, which is essentially, going to get you to your goals. I mean, that's how you go from A to D. You can take quantum leaps and skip all the little steps along the way. And in his book, one of the steps to quantum leaping, he says, do not plan, just do it. If you get an idea and you have the drive to do it, just do it. And then the roadmap will appear along the way. And that's what a jump is. When you jump, you don't know what's going to happen. Like you don't worry about what happens when you're in the air. So it's the same thing.
I like that. And can you say the name of the book and author again?
Yeah, absolutely. It's U squared. So like U and then like in math,
Oh, okay.
the little two.
Yep.
So U squared by Price Pritchett. And
Uh,
let me tell you, when I read this book, I read it in an hour. It is a super short book, a super quick read, but it is so powerful. I highly recommend it.
nice.
Yeah, and I can put that in the recommendations in our Facebook group as
Uh,
well.
just what I was gonna say. Remember nine.
Yeah, we're on the same page. Um, and also, there are examples of of people in history, all throughout history, who have set C-type goals and achieved them. But I never realized until learning what a C-type goal was. And then going back and as I'm teaching my kids in school history and as I'm kind of thinking and processing, I've I've kind of reflected on how much this has happened. We just don't even realize it. So for example, the Wright brothers, they wanted to I'm trying to think of the word. They wanted to show people a new kingdom. They didn't know how they wanted to do it. And then the pieces of their puzzle kind of came together and they ended up making airplanes, right? So they didn't know exactly how they wanted to do it, but then this idea came to them. They wanted to make airplanes. Well, that's a totally new perspective for people. It's a new kingdom, right? The air. And then at the time, people told them, "You're crazy. There's absolutely no way this is going to happen." But they believed. They never gave up. They didn't let the real world or people influence them. And what did they do? They made airplanes, and now airplanes are just part of everyday life. So, like, there are so many examples like that in history. It's so incredible.
That's awesome. Oh, I'm sure that if I looked at my own lesson plans, I'm sure that I could, tease things out that I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, look at this." I never really
Mhm.
thought about it that way until now.
Yeah. Like all those people that changed history. I mean, there are so many, could go on and on. Martin Luther King Jr. and Abraham Lincoln and Rosa Parks, all these people that they changed the world, or created something. These were all things that at the time it was like, you can't do that. But they said, yes, you can. And they believed, they got the tools they needed along the way, and they were successful. If you keep your eyes on your goal and you don't let anything, external circumstances included, if you don't let anything get in your way or stop you from believing, then all of those obstacles by law have to fall away. What happens is most people, they get so close and then they reach a failure point and say, okay, I'm just going to give up. But if they kept going, success would be right on the other side of that so-called failure.
Yes, because that failure is actually part of the process. I think this is what I was talking about when we had the conversation about gratitude, like, you being grateful. This is I'm pretty sure I said this in episode 2, um, but, like, being grateful for all that is, everything, absolutely everything, whether you think it's big, small, good, bad, doesn't matter, because the good is great. You want to celebrate the things that you feel like are positive and um, joyful, but then also realizing that part of every human's experience is going to be um, failure and suffering and all of those things. They're part of it. It's part of the package. And so those experiences, those failures, like, you really do have to embrace them and be grateful for them, um, because that's what leads to the next step. Like, that's what leads you to where you will end up um, being. And so if we didn't have those, then we wouldn't be human.
Mhm.
um, and so I definitely think that that's all part of it. Giving up is um, not an option. I do think that sometimes there might be a change in the course, or a change in, I don't even want to say change in the plan, because you really shouldn't have like um, yourself held to plans. Because then that's like you trying to set that up in the way that you're expecting it to go, or the way you think it should go, or um, that type of thing. But yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that connection. I think I completely agree. And I think that those so-called failures, because you really don't fail unless you give up, but those, we'll call them setbacks or little roadblocks along the way, they're all part of the lesson. And that's what, going right back to what you said about showing gratitude for them, because you're going to learn something. And that's oftentimes something that you're going to need, to plow forward. But going back to what we said in the beginning, the purpose of your goal is to learn along the way and to grow. And without those opportunities where you have to grapple or find a new way, what are you going to learn? Mm.
Exactly. And I'm even thinking like those stumbling blocks or roadblocks or whatever you want to call them, like those things happen because that's how the it was supposed to happen. Like everything happens for a reason. So it's not that maybe how you saw it going in your head, but um, it means that that direction you were going, or that road you were going down, was not ever your intended, you know, path to get there. It was just like a stop along the way because you needed, that particular lesson or experience to be able to actually go where you were meant to be.
Yeah, I love that. Again, I agree completely. And I think that people kind of get stuck with that sometimes and like get thrown off. But oftentimes with, achieving your goals, which are essentially your manifestations that you're, bringing from the fourth dimension into the third physical dimension, um, oftentimes you're going to get there, or what you're manifesting is going to come in a way that you don't expect it, which is kind of cool too.
Yeah.
So, an example in my life, my whole life, I wanted to write a book, and I always stopped because I had limiting beliefs. But it was
Mhm.
something that I always wanted to do, and I kind of excuse me, coming back to it and dropping it and blah blah blah. But anyway, so now, once I really started this mindset work, I came back to it. Like, I want to write a book. So I always envisioned, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write a story. It's going to be my fiction story because I love fiction. And that was going to be how it would happen. Well, that's not, I am writing a book, and that is totally not the way it's happening. I got an opportunity presented to me to co-author a nonfiction book, with a group of some amazing women to put together a book with our stories, how mindset has changed our lives. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm writing a book, and it's totally the opposite of what I envisioned, but it's happening. So things do come to you, and in a way that you don't expect.
And I feel like I connected to something that you said at the very beginning about like bringing things from the fourth dimension into the third, physical dimension. And it's because all that could ever be already exists. It's all there, but it's just a matter of um, getting it where you want it to be. But it can only get there um, through, being aligned with your, greater purpose.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great point. Nothing is created or destroyed. Everything is just is. Um, I love that. That's so true. And yeah, you have to get on the vibration of what you're attracting. So I find, which is the law, law of vibration, that there are certain things I can manifest in a couple hours. If I'm in alignment with them, they're going to come right now. Um, but the things that, like these C type goals, they're going to be at a higher vibration than where you are now. Otherwise, you would have it already. So then, in your belief, in your visualization, in your affirmations, in constantly thinking about your goal. And here's a little trick: living from the end result. That's what's going to get you to that vibration.
Yes, and
So,
even the gratitude for it before it even occurs. I have seriously used that so many times. You can be grateful for something even though it doesn't exist at the present moment. Um, Live as if it does and be grateful for it.
yes. Yes, I have a journal, a gratitude journal I use. It's by Kathleen Camera and Andrea Cox. Phenomenal. I love it. It's a 6 month thing, but one of the sections on the page is manifested gratitude. So gratitude for what you're manifesting, because it does. If you live as if it's already here, you're going to be on that vibration. You're going to align with it. You're going to bring it to you a hell of a lot faster, and you're already living as if. And something else that kind of goes with this that I heard, which is such a cool idea, is that when you set the goal, that's when you should celebrate achieving it. And I love that. I'm like,
That
how
is
cool
so
is that?
cool. I'd never heard that, but that is so cool.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm actually thinking next year, in the beginning of the year, setting goals with my kids, my kids at school. And then we're gonna have a celebration for them right at the beginning with their goals achieved already and how powerful that'll be.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. I love it. And you know what? I never really thought about it that way, but I have used, I'm sitting here thinking, I was just saying how I've personal experience with using gratitude um, to manifest. And I don't think I have brought this story up before, but I had like a specific back pain. And when my amazing massage therapist listens to this episode, because she listens, when she hears this episode, she's going to laugh because I don't even know if I've told her. Um, but probably 10 years, I had this pain in my back. It was like where behind my shoulder blade. Um, and massage therapy, which really helped, especially when you have her. Love you, Katie. But it helps in the moment, you feel good for a day. Chiropractors, doctors, medicine, everything. And still had this pain, like literally felt like I had a golf ball behind my shoulder blade for over 10 years. And one night I was listening to a talk by Greg Braden, who is a scientist who studies um, archaeology, but also the past and changing, the future. And in one of his talks one night, he was talking about being grateful for healing that hadn't happened yet. And he like talked about it very briefly. And I was like, wait, how do you do that? And this was probably over a year ago now. And stopped what I was doing, totally clear headed, paused the video. And then I was like, sure, why not? I am so, and with great like feeling, excitement, joy, truly believing it. I am so grateful to no longer have this pain in my back that I've had. I don't even think it was 10 seconds later. Like I'm talking pretty immediate that I like moved my arm and it was like the ball that had been there for 10 years was gone. Like it was literally, I'm like, wait, like gone completely in seconds. And I was like, okay, like it's messing with my head. Tomorrow I'm going to wake up, I'm going to have it. Or next week I'm going to, be right back there at that spot. And I haven't. It's gone. Like it's now over a year later. It's about 14 months since this happened. And I haven't had that. Haven't had that followed me for over 10 years. And for me, that was just that moment of being grateful for something um, that hadn't manifested yet, but that gratitude practice with, I'm telling you, the belief is what makes it for me. Like when I was saying it, it wasn't, let me see, I'm not sure that this will work, but just fully wholeheartedly believing in it and just gone, totally gone. And I forget why I was saying that, but just I feel like that's um, an example of manifesting something that hasn't necessarily occurred yet, but then manifesting through the practice of using gratitude.
Holy cow. That is
Yeah.
so
Wow.
amazing.
I still can't believe it. I still can't believe it. And I don't know if I told her about that because when I go to her, I'm usually going to her, you know, for other things, like not that. But yeah. So if I haven't told you, now you know.
That's a game changer. And and I think, like, thinking about it, because when you're grateful for something that hasn't happened yet, you're living as if it has. So it all just it blows my mind every time I hear a new story or think about it or even living it. And I know that the human brain cannot comprehend all of this. So and that was an aha I had. I read that in a book somewhere. So, like, that's why I always have these aha moments, like, oh, or not aha moments, like those mind blown moments of how powerful this is, because we just can't really wrap our heads around it. But it is so powerful. So I implore you all, see if you can find something small,
Hmm.
even that you can, you know, manifest or a little pain that you have. See if you can, use that manifested gratitude to get rid of it. Because I think sometimes, you need to do it to believe in it first.
Yeah, we were talking about that with students. How
Hmm.
like how can we bring this to our students? And Jillian and I were talking that like we feel like it's although children's minds are very like you can change them with maybe less suffering over time. Like they're not as set in their ways. But from a child's perspective, when you're trying to get them to do something that maybe like this, that they're like the same thing adult would do, adult would be like, no, I don't think so. Child would do the same thing. But for them, they don't even have any experiences to go off of. So adults won't necessarily have the experiences, but they can better probably understand and reason and process what we're saying. Whereas when you're trying to explain that to a child, I think it's going to be really hard for them to even, like we were saying, like write a C type goal until they've experienced something. Whereas an adult maybe could write a C type goal, but would really need to get themselves into the correct mind space and mindset, um, and going at it like with a wholeheartedly believing something, and then have that experience, um, and then be like, oh, I can do this. You know, I
Hmm.
think with children, we have to find a way for them to be able to experience that, which is why Jillian and I were saying we feel like the A type goals and the B type goals we really do need when we're working with children because they might seem more basic and achievable, but they need to have that feeling.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's, ultimately you want to be setting the C type goals. But I think if you're in a place where you're not quite believing yet, or, and that applies to adults or children. And I think, I think, sorry, I'm kind of processing here. I think you're right. I think as kids, like I have second graders, and I was trying to set goals with them, and I was trying to set C-type goals with them, but they already have programs, and they already have paradigms, and they already have limiting beliefs of what's possible. So they need, it was very hard for them. I was like, wish, dream big. And they're like, I want a puppy. I'm like, okay. So, it's not a C-type goal, but in a way, maybe it is for them because they can't buy it themselves. So maybe it really is. Maybe it's just a matter of getting into perspective, their perspective. Um, but I think that they do. I agree. They need to experience something that they don't think is possible, because they might even not think those A and B type goals are possible. And then to start achieving them and saying, "Oh my goodness, yes, I can." Then they're going to start dreaming bigger and seeing that they can seriously achieve anything. I actually had a student who said he really wanted a pool. And I was like, "Okay, do you have a pool?" And he said, "No." And it's like, "Okay, that's a great goal." And he said, "But my parents say we can't have a pool." I was like, "Well, if you believe that you're going to get a pool, and if you constantly think about you're going to get a pool, visualize yourself swimming in that pool this summer, you're going to get a pool." And he was like, "No, I don't think that's possible." And,
Oh,
I was like, "Oh my gosh," even something like that, which for him probably is a C-type goal, because, he's right. He doesn't have control over it. So for him, it is, how on earth is this possible? But, we got to get them to see that they can really have anything if they believe and follow these steps.
I agree. I agree. And that's why we're here. That's why we have this, vision. We want to get this information to kids.
Yeah. Yeah. And just imagine, if you start out life little and you develop that belief that anything is possible, imagine when they are teenagers or adults. Imagine what their goals would be, and imagine how different and how amazing this world would be.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. And then you said it.
So in sync.
Yep. I
Mhm.
agree.
And that's why we're here, right?
Yep.
I know we've
Exactly.
said it, but just hits it home.
All right. Do you have anything that you feel like we haven't touched on yet?
I think we hit a lot of the big points. Um, One other quick thing I'll say, when you set a C-type goal, it is okay to set like milestone goals along the way. So one of my goals is that I want to bring in $100,000 a month. So for me right now, I earn significantly less than that a month. So I am not at that vibration at all. So I'm working on living from my end result, and I'm doing all of these things, but I've set milestone goals along the way. So like my first milestone goal is $20,000 a month. Because once I get there, well then, 50 is not that much higher than that. So you kind of can climb the ladder. So you can set those little goals along the way as well. Yeah. Is there anything else that you were thinking?
No, I don't think I had anything else. I just wanted to really talk on the gratitude and affirmations, but I talked about one and you talked about the other. I think that's it.
Awesome. Yeah. And,
Grateful for
you know,
everyone coming and
sorry,
listening.
go ahead.
Just grateful for everyone coming and listening.
Yes, absolutely. I second that 100%. We are here to bring this information to the world. So super grateful for your listening ears. And yeah, and I do want to share, which is kind of perfect for this. We are hosting a vision board party in June 11th, 12th, and 13th. It's an hour a day. And we're just going to really help you break outside of that box, dig deep, look at and connect to yourself. Like, what are your fantasies? What are your big dreams? And we have some great workshops in place to bring you to that place, to get you to think about what you want, and to build a beautiful, inspiring vision board that you can use to kind of, to bring those things to life. Because when you have them in front of you all the time, you think about them all the time.
Yeah, I think that this event, this vision board party, is actually aligns perfectly with the fact that we just announced that event. So, like, announced that event with this episode. So, thank you.
Yeah, the universe is at work here. Everything is in
Yes,
alignment.
exactly.
Um, so if you are interested, join our Facebook group. It is called Mindset Teaching Outside the Box. And once you are in our group, you will be able to go ahead to the event and, register there that you want to join. And I believe we're going to try to do replays so that it'll be like in the group. So if you can't attend live or miss a day, you still don't have to miss it and you can still be part of that event.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And we hope you have a lovely week, and we will see you next week.